Hey, good morning. Happy Saturday to you. Gratitude Saturday. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Dose. Hope you're having a beautiful morning. So could you imagine back in like the 1800s where this place used to be a vacation clubhouse for the elite of the elite? I think I read that it was 1/6 of the entire country's wealth here at one point in time. I'm going to share with you a value of perception. This is an old clubhouse on Jekyll Island here for the weekend. And could you imagine back being kind of one of those families that just could come and vacation? And this isn't even your home. This is just the clubhouse. Come play your croquet. I think that's what they call it. Lawn bowling, whatever you want to call it. Hey, good morning. So I want to share with you today a little bit of gratitude Saturday and the value of perception. It's pretty interesting as I'm sharing this on site here in Jekyll Island. Beautiful place, about an hour and a half north of me. My wife and I are here just for the weekend, and we have access to a place that honestly pretty much for the most part was inaccessible back about 120 years ago, more or less. And I don't know all the history behind it. I've been looking at it. There's little areas of history where you can learn, but I do know that at one point, it's crazy to think that this goes to show about perception. And maybe I can share that with you today and where you're at maybe. And I'm not talking about financially speaking, just in perception of life in general. So with that, when I wanted to share it, I do have my coffee. You're like, no, hey, wait, you're not home. I don't leave my coffee cup home. I fill it up. It's filled. It's getting hot, so I don't need this long sleeve shirt on. But anyway, so check this out. At one point, just to think that this house, I say house, the clubhouse, well, that was actually the guest house. And then let me just share with you some other things if you've never been to Jekyll Island before. Really cool place, quiet. It's interesting. A lot of people like to go on vacation, kind of all the new, and we like history. We like the old. There's something to be said. Now, we're not staying here, but that's J.P. Morgan house over there. Check that out. Pretty cool. That's a property. But just think about this. It just blew me away about perception. And at one point, and I can't remember, I think it was in the 40s. Now, that's not that long ago. This entire island, the entire island was bought for less than the value. Now, my house it's pretty good value, my house, because we're close to the beach. But the entire island was bought by the state of Georgia for less than what my house is worth right now. That is kind of crazy. Perception, and that's like all of this stuff. Now, mind you, at the time, I can't remember, I think this clubhouse maybe was built for, or maybe it was for 100 and something thousand or something like that. But I remember just reading about the rich of the rich at one point in time back in the late 1800s, the Morgans and the Rockefellers and the, all those names, Vanderbilts and stuff, they came and vacationed here. It was actually like a hunting, kind of hunting lodge, and they're like a hunting estates, and they come and vacation here, like our snowbirds. It was like the original snowbirds, and they had this whole island, and it's pretty cool. And why am I sharing this with you? Let me share with you. First off, it's absolutely beautiful. There's something to be said about perception of quality. And you think about quality of how many, if you go look at some of the pictures, I was just looking at the J.P. Morgan house, and there was literally like 500 people working on this house to build it. It was crazy. There's pictures of hundreds and hundreds of workers building and working hard. And I don't know what the situation was for them or the work environment, but I can just tell you the quality, the craftsmanship to be able to stand the test of time. Some of these windows and, some of the stuff is all original, right? The whole building in general is original. But just the quality and value. But for now, I want to share with you perception. It's interesting to think of just right now, maybe in your world on a Saturday, and your whole take of what's going on. And I can say is that I'm sure we have no idea, no concept, unless you're ultra wealthy, and I'm not. But I would say is you have no concept of what maybe life was like back then, right? Just as maybe many of you now, in the next 100 years, people will go back and be like, we have no idea how, people lived when people, and say 100 years from now, they have no idea how people lived back when we were, 100 years from now. They say, oh, back in 2020, there was some virus and the whole, country shut down and the economy. Well, that's the reason why this ended up selling. What happened was the Depression came around and less people vacationed here, and it went from inaccessible to accessible. So that's kind of crazy to think, like, they had this place here built and they had to change, right? They had to kind of change their focus. This is a beautiful tree, by the way. I love this with the Spanish moss. We don't have that at our house. We have an oak tree that's pretty much old like this one, but doesn't have the really beautiful Spanish moss hanging from there. So can you imagine? I wonder if these trees could actually talk, if they could actually share some of the stories back. I can't imagine the stories that they'd have. But yeah, think about this for today. I'm grateful for the ability to look back at my life and look back and see, even in just the past 47 years for me. And I think the 47 years that I've lived is that my perception has changed. Things are different. Things that I used to have access to, I really don't care to have access to them anymore. And things that maybe aren't accessible right now to me, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. Just as I'm sure the people that didn't know, the ultra wealthy, the 1/6 of the population, they maybe heard about Jekyll Island way back in the day, but they probably were just living their life. So going into your weekend and being grateful and gratitude, and why I wanted to share this Saturday gratitude with you is, yes, to show you beautiful. Don't be envious. This is, again, we've gone here. It's a really neat place to come with your family. There's actually 3 weddings going on here, 2 or 3 weddings, and I think sometimes they stay in the house, and there's a crane cottage. And what happened is all these guys, these wealthy people, built these mansions, these like cottages, they call them, around the clubhouse. Or I think they were built first and then they built the clubhouse. And now they're neat places where people can have weddings and you can come and stay. And the Jekyll Island's where we're staying over here on the Jekyll Island Resort. And it's pretty neat. It's real quiet. You can notice, look, there's nobody around. It's 8:30, totally socially distanced. But it's different to think back where, only a few families used to come here and vacation at one time. And it was completely inaccessible. Like, nobody was able to come unless you were like, even if you knew somebody, you had to have a certain number in your bank account, I'm sure, to be a part of the elite. So I don't know what that looks like for you, but maybe just being grateful for today, where you're at, and not maybe worrying so much about what's tomorrow going to bring, what's going to happen in the next year or the next 10 years and the next 20 years. Is just to be grateful for what you have today and the perception of today. Because I'm sure when the guys built these and the vacationers came, and then we have the lockdown and pandemic and all the things changed in the world, is when the depression came in the 40s, right? In the early 40s, when less people came to vacation here. They probably didn't have any idea that at one point they were gonna have to bail on it all, and that's pretty much what happened. And then this became kind of quiet for a while. I think it changed hands a little bit. I think somebody bought it and then they couldn't run it, and then they ended up, the state of Georgia ended up buying the entire island for literally, like, the entire island, bought the whole thing. Now it's run as a resort. Really cool place to stay, but it's different, right? And you've learned to adapt and shift and change. And I think that's more my perception today, being here and just enjoying this. And I'm going to get offline here in a moment, but I wanted to share my daily dose because I've dedicated the past 100 and something days, and I'm going to continue to moving forward, is just giving you some value in your weekend. So with that, I hope you have an amazing, blessed Saturday, and the things that we're grateful for. Sometimes it takes really just honing in on the perception of the value, the perception of that. And one of the things maybe for you is not that you have maybe a vacation home that looks like this, and nor do I, but to actually have access, right, to the things that we have access to. I'm going to enjoy this thoroughly with my wife for this weekend, and just grateful that we have access. And I don't know what your access looks like for you, but I would say is to enjoy it. Enjoy your day, enjoy your life. Don't worry so much about tomorrow. Don't worry about what the next 50 or 100 years, because we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. In fact, I can just assure you, if you don't have a belief or a faith in God, one of the things that has been so valuable is understanding perception in God's eyes and looking at the value that he has for my life, and then taking that not for granted, but just thoroughly having gratitude for him, for also the people he put in my life, for the experience that I get to have, and the access, right? That's what it comes down to, is I didn't have that kind of, we all have the access to the Lord, but really for me, I didn't realize how easily accessible he was in my life. And I was something that won't change. That's the beautiful thing about faith, is that your access to God will not change. You can have access to him right now. and to give you not just a perceived value of like immeasurable, something that's way worth more than any kind of mansion or any kind of estate or cottage or, you know, any kind of wealth per se. Is there's an unimaginable amount of wealth that having that trust and faith in the Lord and having that kind of access to him, at least I feel in my heart. And if you don't yet, I hope at one point in your walk in your life, whether it be the next 10 years and the next 40 years, is that you find out the value of that. So anyway, I'm going to leave you on the Daily Dose. I hope you have an amazing, blessed weekend. Take care and God bless. We'll see you.